Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at the NZXT Relay series of audio products. Now they have had some microphones out for a little while, but they're now delving into headset, speakers and even a subwoofer. The centre of this ecosystem, because it is kind of designed to be all linked together, is the brand new Switch Mix. This does come with a very funky stand, but the Switch Mix itself is a desktop volume control that allows you to fade and play with the difference between music stroke audio and the voice. But there's also a little funky switch on the top of the headphone stand, which means when you release the headphones from the stand, it instantaneously switches the music or whatever audio that you're using straight to the headset. And when you put the headset back down again, if you've got speakers attached, it will instantaneously switch everything back. One of the things I did notice though is it did remember the volume settings for the two, which was glorious, because you don't want to go from having your cans up rather loud to then flicking onto the speakers and the speakers just waking everyone up within a 3-mile radius. The cabling and everything for the Switch Mix was all very nice. The headset is comfortable, the microphone's obviously adjustable. The best bit about the headset is it is available in white, and it does carry the case theme on, where they've got like a satin effect, but the NZXT logo is slightly gloss, so it gives you that kind of upmarket double textured affair. They are all available in black, I will add. The speakers was the part that I was most interested in. The speakers is the part I asked for, well, the speakers and the sub, but I did get sent the other bits and bobs, and I'm glad I did, which I will explain why in a bit. Now the speakers themselves, they are active. You have the main powered one and then a slave speaker, which is literally just driven off of a cable. Now on the back of the main speaker you have the main level for it, power switch, sub output switch, 2 RCAs in which do not get used with the normal layout, a TRS in, which is the normal way that NZXT connect to it, and it comes from the stand that way, and then the DC in. This little port on the back to help with bass reproduction, and you can see the tiny little drivers on the front. They've got a textured kind of carbon fibre sort of effect, and the little dome tweeters, silk dome tweeters at the top. The subwoofer itself has a large port on the front of it with a down-firing 6.5 inch subwoofer. Now the cone on the outside is rather large, and it does give me the feeling that there's going to be a lot of movement there. Made me very excited when I first saw that. It does say 140 watts on the box, but that's sadly not RMS. They say 70 watt average, but there is no RMS official rating for it at all. On the back of the subwoofer you can see that you have a crossover, but no indication of what the crossover goes from or to, just min or max. Now with a crossover, what effectively that would do is allow you to fine-tune the frequencies that get put into the sub. If you have it on max, then you're going to get a lot more of the higher notes, and if you have it on minimum, you're going to have it on a lot more of the lower notes, and it will filter out the higher notes that can get put through. I did find though, well, we won't go into the review side of things yet, but anyway, and then you also have the phase adjuster, which is effectively a delay. And again, I'm going to end up going into reviewing it, so we might as well just crack on. The crossover, I personally did just find that by turning the crossover down to bring in more of the deep rumbly sounds, that it effectively just turned the volume down on the sub in entirety. It's like it's not capable of going down that low. It just doesn't have the balls and the meat to be able to push it. Now I know a lot of you at home may be now screaming, well, it's only a 6.5 inch sub. Well, I run a 6-inch sub in my car, and it will absolutely decimate this thing in the amount of lows it can recreate. When you do bring it up which effectively does bring the volume up because you introduce more of the frequencies that it can recreate properly, it then becomes rather muddy. So the crossover on this, or the amplifier that they're using, I actually don't think is good enough. I know you can't effectively look at a speaker and go, well, that should be able to do more, but my instant feeling with this is the amplifier stroke crossover is what is letting the side down. The other side of it is, I actually did find that the sub just was not loud enough. Speaking to NZXT and hearing back from other media that they said have listened to it, it seems to be a bit of a mixed affair. But in the end, what I ended up having to do was leave the sub completely maxed out. I then had the speaker running at, if you call that a clock, at 10 or 11 o'clock on the clock. So I've effectively turned the speakers down, and then that meant when I used the switch mix to turn it up, the speakers were being held back because they weren't being given so much of a signal, or they weren't outputting as much, but the sub was already running at maximum a lot sooner, and that was the only way that I got to a point where I felt like it was okay for music. The other side of things that I did find with the subwoofer was, in reality, if you use it in the way that they say you should and have it underneath your desk right in front of you, that was the only time I felt that the subwoofer was loud enough, stroke could get to the point that you might not want it as loud, or wouldn't need it to be maxed out all the time. And by maxed out, I mean the fact that you have a volume thing on your PC, so you can turn the volume up and down on your PC, but the CAM software normally sets that to maximum. So your PC's at maximum. Then you can move the volume on the switch mix as well. I've then had to turn the volume down on the speakers, and then we've then got another volume on the sub itself. I feel like that's a little bit overcomplicated, in complete honesty. If you've got software, why not use software for everything to be able to be kind of there or thereabouts? If anything, I think the volume on this should have been like a gain where you could have really, really cranked it. And I do not think that that speaker in the bottom of this is being overworked or even utilised completely at all. I actually feel like this needs a lot more work. One of the other things I did notice was, in a very disappointing way, that if you don't have a headset attached to the switch mix, then you have no access to the equalizer settings. You can't make any fine tuning, you can't do anything with the audio at all. And if you look at the difference between the two screens, the second screen was literally what happened when I enabled, or connected I should say, the headset into the switch mix. So as the software stands at the moment, if you did want to buy the speakers as a standalone product and you don't use cans or something, let's just say that you don't, you can't change any of the audio settings, and you really, really do need to. I do think in the audio settings they need a way to turn this up more, but I also think that they need a new one of these with a bigger sub. Now, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but I got quite excited about the white aspect of this. I definitely didn't want the headset because I just don't use them enough. I talk to you guys, I listen to the audio on speakers, if I play games, then I play with them on speakers. I don't mind annoying my neighbours, but my main usage is music. And that is to keep myself sane when I have 10 graphics cards to bench in 5 days and I need something to keep me going. One of the things I did say to you about was that this not seeming enough unless you were sat on top of it. If you do walk away from it in a room, then literally within, say, 2.5 meters, the actual level of the sub that you can hear drops drastically. This is not an all-room use, in my opinion. It's just not man enough for that. You do quite literally need to be sat at your desk to get the best from this, which means, again, Sadly, if you're going to use this for movies, you're going to use this for listening to music and moving around your room or wherever you game, maybe you want to use it for, let's say, home cinema, and you wanted a small audio setup for your home cinema and your PC runs all of this and you're just going to have it all connected together, it's just not enough. You will need a different sub. Thankfully though, because the output on the back is just a single coax, you are not going to be locked into just using this. And I would suggest that for the money that this costs new, I would go and buy something used on like Marketplace or eBay or something, or maybe even upgrade it altogether, because you can for £220 get the Mackie sub, which I do use here, and with the Mackie sub I can't run it above 20% without feeling like I'm going to go deaf. Now yes, I do have Mackie stuff out here, but these I have to keep turned down. So on the volume thing, if I was to have it being used out here, would never go above 50%, and there's a manual adjuster that I have on my desk. I can't turn that above 50% either, because it just engulfs you. It actually overwhelms you with sound, and these speakers are beautiful and clear. I have listened to many different types of music types and game types on these, through from pure classical music, classical trance, in that you have classical music mixed with trance, drum and bass, good old-fashioned rock. I had a right good session to some Billy Idol the other day with these, and the sound recreation on these is very nice and bright and airy. And when I say airy, I then did find that you do have a 3D setting within Cam that is natively on. So if you are going to use these for music, you are going to want to play with the settings, because it did make it feel like it was trying to throw the sound, and it made it overly, you could tell it was on without necessarily having to look for the setting itself. But I did like the music recreation on these. I do think that the £230, was it 230? Yeah, 230 just for the speakers. I do think that is a lot to ask, if I'm honest. But with the current market, okay. But they are, like I said, nice, bright. They recreate the sound nice. Nothing is too harsh. I did find that by bringing some of the top end down a little bit, it tamed things more. But audio is always going to be something that's quite a personal thing anyway. So overall, my thoughts on the relay ecosystem in reality is that the sub is the weak link, unless you are sat on top of it. This would be good for someone that is just sat at the desk. This would be good for someone that didn't want to annoy everyone in a house, or your kids or your housemates or something like this. This would be okay for that. But if you are not sat on top of it and you do want to experience your low-end bass around the room, I personally don't think this is man enough. So, like I said, we'll leave it as. They are definitely onto something. I love the fact that they're white. White audio, great, brilliant. This side of things is great. The headset, I think a lot of you, if you're going to end up investing in something like this, I think you're going to want a better headset. But again, it's the first proper headset that they've actually done, so fair play to them for not going in with something ridiculous. They're not trying to be Sennheiser with this, they're trying to be cost effective. But the problem is, for the ecosystem itself, that cost racks up drastically, and I do think that you might be better off buying yourself a better sub, a better headset, and there are so many different speaker sets out there in reality. The only reason why you'd end up wanting to go down this route is because you're already so heavily invested in the NZXT ecosystem that you've already got Cam, you are putting up with it, you are happy with it, that this is just a kind of nice extension of that. So I do apologise, there is an awful lot for you to digest there, But the problem is we have had to review quite a lot of things, and I did have a lot of thoughts and feelings about all of it. So please do let me know your thoughts underneath. This has been Tiny Tom Logan with another video for you. Out. Ding! I haven't done that out here yet. That might be the first ding. I don't think it really deserved them. Anyway.